Good morning, and welcome back to Rise and Shine College Football. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, and if you love college football, you know you're in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss one moment of Hall of Fame college football. Happy Sooner Day, Eddie Black says. Happy Sooner Day to you, too. Fall camp is here. Exciting. And we got to begin by asking, will Zach Alley bring a new defensive scheme or strategy with him as the new defensive coordinator for the Oklahoma Sooners? You know you're in the right place, Kimberly K. Welcome to the show. Boomer129, Stink-Ass Cat, Eddie Black, and Stephen G. Everybody make sure you check in and wipe those feet when you get in. We'd appreciate it. 32 days away until Temple, but who's counting? No, none of us for sure. Right. Man, I can't tell you. Woke up excited today. Didn't sleep that good last night because I just wanted to get in here and talk ball some more with you guys. I appreciate everybody been watching the show, interacting with it. Over the last couple of days, we've had I mostly just cut from the show from Friday and then did another little video that I told you guys I'd already been working on. But yeah, man, excited about everything that's going on. Hey, good morning there, Neelio. Good Monday morning, everybody. It is Monday. I'm not usually this excited for Mondays, I got to tell you. But yeah, listen, fall camp is upon us. Exciting stuff, man. First year in the SEC, you got a lot of people talking a lot of trash about what OU is and isn't. Going to get out there and get an opportunity to kind of prove what they're all about. I'm excited, man. I just can't wait. I just cannot wait to see these guys take on the best of the SEC. And, I think it's going to be a blast. Yeah. It's not a normal Monday. That's true. Fair. Yep. Listen, man, and now that it's, we can stop talking about stupid stuff and start talking about things that matter, like whether or not this defensive strategy is going to change with the hire of DC, new defensive coordinator Zach Alley. Obviously Brent Venables allowed his mini BV was finally made available to the media as the Oklahoma Sooners' new defensive coordinator this week. After months of the coach kind of stashing him and ignoring questions about the young man who shadowed him for 9 years at Clemson before getting out on his own to get seasoning on the instincts that Venables instilled in him to great success at Boise State, Louisiana Monroe, and Jacksonville State over the past 4 years. Venables, of course, is in his third year at Oklahoma after 10 years as the DC for Clemson, where he helped the Tigers to a pair of national championships and 2 other appearances in the national championship game. He parted with Ted Roof as defensive coordinator after last season when Oklahoma's defense appeared to stumble down the stretch with not just, the fact that they had some injuries and stuff, but it just didn't seem like that they were kind of getting it together the same way down the stretch on that side of the ball. Of course, it led to a couple of lost games that, we've talked a lot about it. A lot of that had to do with offense as well. But when Oklahoma had an opportunity to kind of get in and get a spot, at the very least in that Big 12 championship game, that would have given them an opportunity to get into the playoff had they not had that second loss. So I think it was kind of something that everybody expected. So, uh, and for all everything that people, their questions or their concerns or whatever about OU coming in has been the fact that you got two new coordinators. Well, it's kind of, you know what I mean. You've got we heard the CFB professor talk about the fact that Zach Alley's one of the hottest young coordinators in the game, and again, he's spent so much time with Venables. He immediately got into coaching as a student at Clemson, and I mean, they literally say he is a clone of his former boss and new boss. And if anybody knows how Venables wants his defense to operate, it would be the coach who is said to be that clone. And the thing is I think that Coach V he's always going to have his hands all over this defense. There's no two ways around it, right? But I think he clearly trusts Zach Alley, even though they didn't really want to talk about who was going to call this defense or who's going to run this defense. I think that's obviously some gamesmanship. They're going to make them kind of guess all the teams in the SEC. And if you listen to kind of what Teddy and Gabe were talking about on their show the other day, they were saying that you got to expect that you probably won't see a single thing in those first three games against Temple, Houston, and Tulane that that they would show in the Tennessee game as well. I wouldn't expect it. I think that's about right. But again, he's always going to have his hands on it. But I think that the reason that he brought him to Norman was because he trusts him, and it allows him to free himself up to be a true CEO head coach. Kind of make sure that everybody's working together to have truly a complementary football type of game plan. And I think that that's what you really want to see Venables kind of take that next step in doing this season. The question, I guess, would be, does the Oklahoma defensive strategy change with the hire of Zach Alley? In a word, yes. I mean, it's quite possible the strategy could change by the week as the Sooners come into their first game against Tennessee, I would think. Probably, as I said, you're probably not going to see everything that they do will probably be so based in those first three games that, Josh and his crew is going to think they're going to see one thing, and then it's going to be completely different, right? Completely different. But, and I think that there's going to be it's going to be a fun little chess match between Josh Heupel and, of course, Venables and Zach Alley. Now, while he is well-versed in that vaunted 3-3-5 defense that BV's known for, from what we understand, he brought some wrinkles of his own, since becoming an FBS defensive coordinator over the past 3 seasons at Jacksonville State and before that at Louisiana Monroe. Kind of a multiple defense, very aggressive, a lot of exotic blitzes that you were seeing, but I mean, they put together one of the top 20 defenses in the country a year ago for Rich Rod's team there in Jacksonville State. I know they were unhappy about losing the guy. I think that gave BV the confirmation that he was looking for, that Alley was ready for this job, though, to come into Oklahoma as his new DC. And, of course, the reunion between he and the staff, most of which he's familiar with because of their days at Clemson. We're talking about how it kind of felt like a reunion of sorts, family reunion, homecoming. Now, the Sooner defense, which is, of course, led by Butkus Award watch list guy and preseason All-American Danny Stutzman, they certainly approve of the hire. They love everything that you continue to hear out of everybody coming that plays on that defense is that how much they really like Coach Alley and just the way that he comes across. Sometimes a little bit different voice, even though it's a clone. I think maybe he comes off a little bit different. And BV was even talking about that a little bit, that they can play good cop, bad cop, and he'll always be the bad cop. I think that probably works pretty well. But I do think that they all approve of it, and I think that with all this experience that's coming back on this defense, I think that people are going to have a hard time dealing with this defense. Kimberly K says, please know I have a screenshot of that now. Deleted foolishness from Sark tweeting all over himself. Are you serious? So that really came off of his, because everybody keeps telling us it's a fake. And they were saying it on Jay's show last night. And I kept hearing it all day on Twitter yesterday. Wow. Well, maybe it's a little crazier than we thought. I don't know. I didn't think it was real. Welcome into the show, Kyle Dupuis. Rob077. Finally, some stuff on the field to talk about. Heck yeah, man. Gonna let BV be a CEO and oversee both sides and not just handle the defense. I agree. I think that there were some times last year that, well, and it seemed like there was those few times that he was a little indecisive as to what he wanted to do. I think maybe because he had to be so involved in what the defense was doing. He wasn't sure whether he should, do certain things at certain times. Little indecisive. You want to see him, they know the situation. It's like second nature. Boom, we're going to do it or we're not. Stink says if we can get 5 years out of Allie before he gets poached, we can make a heck of a run. Listen, man, I think that that's the main thing that you're going to find out. I believe that they're going to make a run here. I think they're going to make a run here in the next 2 years, 2 to 3 years for sure. Try to get them a natty for sure, and an SEC championship if possible. But I think when you look at it, you really need to kind of step up and do it now, because the fact is that the better they get, just like you saw at Alabama, just like you see already at Georgia, now you're going to have to start replacing coaches, because championship teams produce new head coaches all the time. So that's where, okay, what are your second group of hires going to look like, right? But I agree with you. I think it's an important thing. It's going to be good. I offer for him to get poached. Listen, man, if you go out there and put together what we expect is going to be and help it be one of the top defenses in the country, which this is probably going to happen with the way they're recruiting and the way that they do things, the offer would be real, And a head coaching job, look, and Venables even says you want your guys to get an opportunity like that. You want them to get an opportunity. It needs to be the right one, I think. But yeah. Yeah, listen, I think he is as legit as advertised. Yeah, he won't be around that long. I think 5 years would probably be a stretch, to be honest with you. Because if he trusts him, and we've heard a lot of people say that BV is the best defensive coach in the country. If he trusts this guy and they put together the defense that we expect him to put together, which, it's here. It's time. Yeah, it may not take very long. They win a national championship. It certainly won't take that long, because then defensive coaches will be back in vogue. Bishop Frank, welcome to the show, sir. New wrinkles added. Oh, I think so, man. Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. No. He wouldn't. I think he would most certainly do that. It would be a head coaching job. He's not going to leave for another DC job, probably. Grew up in North Carolina. Yeah. Well, okay, here's the question, though. Because, and not bad mouthing Dabo, but the question I would have is, would you expect that is Dabo going to end up staying around? Because look, to me, this is a kind of a prove it year for them. And I don't know what's going on at Georgia. I don't think it's going to be anything huge right there. I think that there's some issues though with I'm not equating what happened with the kid who had a domestic violence deal with their speeding and stuff. I don't really look at it that way. And I don't know that that's anybody's fault either, but there's some things that are starting to look like maybe, you know, I don't know how long this run could be, you know, and if they're targeting Kirby and his kids, I mean, that's one way to end a dynasty real quick. And don't get it twisted and think that Alabama isn't going to be right there in the mix as well. But I would say that if you're Clemson and you've got, this is the second year with Garrett Riley, and remember last year he was talking about how it was more of a situation where we run the Clemson offense. It's not going to be his offense. Why would you even hire him? That's kind of weird. But look, they've got some young receivers, but they're young. And if you're Clemson in this second year under Riley doesn't really equate to anything with Cade Klubnik, who was the second straight number one quarterback in his recruiting class to come through there, that they ran out and blamed on, how much longer does Dabo end up staying around? Now, I know they owe him a lot of money, and I don't know how interested he is in leaving at the moment, but he's not wanting to play the portal game. He doesn't want to NIL seems like, I think they're doing some NIL stuff, but you got to do it all if you're going to stay up with the times. And I think that you could definitely see a situation like that where if they do very well and he's only there for another 2 or 3 years, I would think that's where he went to school. You know, that's where he cut his teeth. I think that they would absolutely go after a guy like that. I would see him probably taking a position like that. In fact, that's probably the target if you think about it. Yeah, I kept hearing it was fake too, but so Kimberly, tell me about, hope it's not real, but the defense was his divorce and having an emotional moment. I was thinking it should be beneath him to tweet that. Yeah, so I guess my question would be, did you actually get that off of his timeline, or was it just something that you saw on Twitter? Because I never saw it on his actual timeline, and everybody keeps saying it's a fake, and anybody could, like, I mean, it's not that hard to Photoshop something like that. But if it actually was on his time, I can't even imagine that he's that stupid. I don't think he's a great coach, but I don't think he's stupid, right? That's just wild. That would be crazy. What's up there, Mars James? Pretty much how he made an excuse that Sooner turnovers last year should have been flags. Yeah, see, and that's what every time I hear one of these freaking Texas fans tell us how they don't care about the horns down. By the way,
the brand has finally returned. Fuck your brand.
Horns down, everybody. Every time I hear that stuff, I laugh because somebody in the if it didn't come from Sark, it came from somebody that was still pissy about that stuff. Good morning there, Ben G. I just threw that out there at the right time, didn't I? Yeah, I don't think it was though, right? What else we got? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not either. It's to the point, man, that you can't really trust anything. Yeah, I don't think it was. That's what I was just saying. I didn't think it was. We talked about it. Jay and them were on their show last night, and we were talking about it a little bit. And I was like, well, because I never saw it. I don't know who saw it on his actual timeline. I know that, that was the narrative or whatever, but I hadn't seen anything. But it seems, even for Sark, that seems like, and it makes it awfully convenient that he just, announced his divorce and all that kind of stuff, that they're getting divorced. So it's, that they're trying to act like maybe he fell off the wagon or something, which I think, first of all, hey there, First Lady. What's up, Shelby? I would say that of everything I'll say about Sark, I hate it when people bust him and start saying stuff about him drinking again and stuff like that, because the guy beat that demon, and that's one of the toughest things for anybody to do, is to stop drinking. If you're an alcoholic, man, it's the toughest thing in the world for those folks to do. So I commend him for that part of it, turning his life around in regards to that. Yeah, a divorce could maybe cause you to do that, but Anyway, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, man. It just seems I don't see it. Yeah. Okay. Go Dogs. I don't do SEC loyalty. I hate all equality except for Florida. There's a special level of hate for them. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. Coach, I said something about you wouldn't piss on them if they were on fire. Hey, yeah, I'm glad you're here and thank you for coming in. And yeah, I don't know. It's I think we'll have something else to stick on a t-shirt though. I know that. It's always that. Yeah, it probably would have been a much bigger issue there, Kyle, if it wasn't fake. What's up there, Jimmy Satterfield and Chicken? Good morning. Good morning. Happy Sooner Day. Glad everybody's in here. Yeah. So, yeah, as we were talking about, though, kind of wanted to get in and we'll do some more on the offense on Wednesday, but I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about obviously the position groups, what's up for grabs. This is definitely a very talented defense, right? And I think that the fact that you got Stutzman, Bowman, Ethan Downs, and even Woody Washington to come back, for their third year in this system, it's going to provide some leadership that really could be very important for Oklahoma. Now, obviously, they get an opportunity to kind of bump up their draft stock, but I also would tell you that, when you've got a preseason All-Americans in Bowman and Stutzman, of course, Bowman, I think he was second and third on a few of the lists, whatever. Stutzman's been first team All-American on a number of lists, second on a couple as well. Of course, none of that really matters until the end of the year. I think that there was enough people that were left off of the preseason SEC lists on the defense and the offensive side. I would tell you, guys like, Nick Anderson, particularly. I would say Dasan McCullough. But there's a lot of guys in Kip Lewis, even guys like that. Gentry Williams should be somewhere in the mix, at least on the All SEC team. But the only one that really matters is the one at the end of the season. So talking about this defense, I think that there's a great mix of veteran talent and then, of course, these unbelievable athletic guys that they've been bringing in through recruiting. Obviously, you know me, I'm not going to sit here and like fawn over every recruit like that. I just don't do it. I get my information from the same places you get yours from. So I love the guys that they look like they're in line for. They've already, they're doing a fabulous job on the recruiting trail. And I think that's going to continue. But I would tell you that this mix, you having 74% of these guys coming back from last year, the 74% of your returning production, and especially with leadership like you're getting from Danny and Billy Bowman. We've heard Mike Boganowski on here, Big Mike, talking about how he tells his son just to soak that stuff up from Billy and Robert Spears Jennings and those guys, just to soak it up because, these guys are a well of knowledge and, they're going to show you how to do it the right way. And I think that that's the biggest thing that Zach was talking about was that he looks at Danny Stutzman as a leader of men, he said, talking about how he's a leader of men and that he's another coach on the field. That's super important. But I guess the question would be, with all these guys coming back, how many of these positions on the defensive side of the ball are going to be really hotly contested for who's starting and then to get rotational time? Now, they talk about competitive depth all the time. Take a drink. Need some coffee anyway. That's been the key word around here. And, of course, competitive depth has always been the key word for Brent Venables, but there's a lot of it. And I think you're going to see a lot of different guys in different places. My thing is, I believe, well, tell me what you guys think. What positions are going to be the most what are we talking? A new t-shirt for what are we talking about? I love it. I'm gonna write that down. Let me write it down. I like it. See, it's about time. All right, cool. Let me know what you guys think, though. Which positions do you think are going to be the most hotly contested on the defensive side of the ball? We'll talk offense on Wednesday. Again, I'm not as concerned about the offense or anything. I'm myself, I'm kind of wondering what's going to happen in that safety room, right? There's so much depth there. And then really the secondary in general, but then you got questions about who's going to step up next to Danny Stutzman. Is it going to be Kip Lewis? Is it going to be Lewis Carter? Is it going to be, are you going to see the things that we've been wanting to see out of Jaren Kanak, Kobe McKenzie? I mean, it's great questions to ask. The defensive line, of course, on the edges, I think, guaranteed you're going to see a lot of Ethan Downs, right? And rightfully so, man. That guy has turned himself into a stud and a real leader out there as well. What's up there, T Boomer? Good to see you, man. Jimmy Lee Baker. Good to see you guys. But yeah, I would think that those positions really, what's going to be on the other side, though, from Ethan? Are you going to see PJ Adebawore, true sophomore now, 5-star, top 5 overall ranked player in that 2023 cycle? Are we going to see him kind of take that next step and be the force that you've heard Ethan and some of those guys talk about? You brought in Caden Woolard from Miami of Ohio. He's a stud. He had double-digit sacks last year there. Senior guy, going to be, the dude's he's an animal too. And then you've got R. Mason Thomas, who, if he could stay healthy, good situation to be in right there as well. I think in the end, what you've really been looking for, and this is what, again, competitive depth, have a drink, is so important, is because first off, you're going to have injuries, right? But if you really want to be a solid unit no matter what, you've got to have it to where you don't have a huge drop off. You've got to have it to where, especially on the defensive line, that you can sub these guys out. We know on the interior, they're probably 7 deep there. It looks to me like as far as the edges are concerned, it's about the same, right? You've got 3 and 4. Yeah. No, 3, about 6 deep there on that side, right? 7 deep on the nose tackle and defensive tackles, those, the 2 spots there, if we're talking 4-3 or whatever. Right. But I do think, that depth is going to be important. And I think that's the same everywhere. I loved it that they went out and got a guy like, Des Malone in that secondary for the corner position. Makari, I don't know what's going to happen with Makari Vickers over his DUI. It doesn't seem like that's probably going to make him lose a lot of time unless, it just depends on how he handles it, I would think. Knowing him, knowing his family the way that I do, and knowing that the way that they kind of handle things, he's the kind of guy that's going to man up to it and do his running. And I mean, you're going to have to anyway. May not hurt him as far as getting ready for the season, having to do all that extra work that Schmitty's putting on him. But I think that him and Jacoby Johnson have been kind of poised to break out. They both looked really good in the spring. Makari looked really good at different times the second half of last year as well. And, we know that he's 6'1", 6'2", fast, big hitter. I mean, it kind of seems like even most of the corners are similar to the safeties, and they've talked about it, just kind of having guys that can play multiple positions because they're all kind of the same build. I really love it, man. These guys are big, they're fast, they all, physical. You got to love it. Gentry Williams is probably the one that you would expect. You got to hope that he stays healthy because he's so talented, man. So talented. He's just one of those guys that is going to be around the football. Would love to see him kind of stay healthy as well. But Jacoby Johnson, we know what kind of athlete that kid is as well. But it's good to have a guy like Des Malone coming in from San Diego State as well. And then of course, in those safety positions, you've got the young guys, man, Jaden Hardy, Michael Boganowski Jr., and then Reggie Powers III. And these guys are freaking headhunters, you know? And so I'm thinking that we're seeing some of these guys kind of get where they need to be. Now you guys are talking, let's see. Really sorry about what? What's up there? Don't be sorry. Downs, man, a few words, but a lot of pain. Yeah, man, yeah. Ethan really, he brought it last year. Ready to see Kip take that next step. He's a beast. Well, right now they've got him, you know, according to, you know, the depth charts that we're seeing online, everybody's got him starting at the wheel, which I think is his natural position. But he definitely showed out in a way that nobody else. But I think Kobe McKenzie looked pretty good at times. We know that Jaren, he just struggled last year. But from what we keep hearing now is he's kind of flipped it around and he seems to kind of have, you know, the light may have turned on for him. I hope that's the case. I mean, because athletically speaking, with the speed that he has, and he's a big kid, likes to hit. I mean, there's a reason, you know, why Venables recruited in the way he did, you know, even as an athlete. And so kind of as a project. So the hope is that he's ready to go. But I do agree that I think that he's going to have to kind of show it. If he doesn't get it on defense, we can move into offense. I think if he was going to do that, he would have already done it probably. So I think he wants to play linebacker, and, you know, more power to him. Right. All right. But starting to hear stuff about Deshaun McCullough playing a little bit of outside linebacker, defensive end kind of stuff, which wouldn't surprise me. Right. He's kind of natural there, getting in the backfield. The Slim Reaper was a bad dude. Right. I think that you're going to see some things out of him. I believe that you're going to see man, I'll tell you one thing. For all the people that were talking about Miguel Chavis and him being on some kind of a hot seat, I don't know where the heck that came from, why it came from there, or where it came from. But I know it was on, you know, like message boards, which are just, if you think Twitter is rotten, those things are ridiculous. But the narrative was out there long enough that, you know, people were believing in it. And I would tell you this, look at the guys that he's recruited. Just look at the guy. I mean, Danny Okoye this past year, along with, what's his name? That other kid. The other young kid, man. The kid from Minnesota or whatever. Stud, right? I'll remember his name in a second. You guys can throw it there, though. But he's awesome, and he was a great player. The guy was a great story himself, you know, playing at Clemson. He wasn't really – he's a big guy, but I don't think – it took him some time to kind of become who he was. But this dude is much a part of that, you know, the soul mission and everything else. But the dude's recruiting like crazy to be able to go and get the guys that they got. Nigel Smith, I think, could work his way into some of that edge rusher spot, because he's talked about kind of being a hybrid guy from that DT spot, that 3 technician out into the edge as well. You kind of look at him as kind of a Myles Garrett type of player, right? I expect to see something out of him at some point this year as well. But I think that Danny Okoye is probably going to be somewhere in the mix. He's so explosive, you know, and just, you know, gets out there with bad intentions. And from that edge position, you can kind of pin your ears back and go after him. That's your job, right? I do think McCullough is going to have something to do with it. We're hearing that Taylor Wine also has been doing very well. Trace Ford looks to be healthy, probably for the first time in a long time. He was starting to do some good things over the last half of the year as well. Trace Ford's a stud. He's been a stud, right? Then when you bring in a guy that, Nigel up to 267, and that's about where he was telling us when he was on the show with us that that's probably where he wants to max out, is around 270. He doesn't want to get huge because he wants to be able to play inside and outside. His strength and the way that he works out, I don't think you have to stack a ton of weight on him if he's going to kind of be moving in and out of there, right? Yeah, man, I think he's a stud. Yeah. Well, and, you know, Neilio, I think that kind of becomes he was a safety, right? You know, and that's not the same thing as playing linebacker. And if you haven't been with Kip Lewis, he's been a linebacker. So, it was easier for him to kind of figure it out. The one thing that you were worried about, and, we saw Damian Mackey talking about it on Kay Chris's show, was that, look, man, the kid's under 220 and he was over there taking on the guard and stuff like that in certain situations. What you're supposed to do in that position. And for a guy that's over 225 or whatever, it didn't seem like he was going after it with the same gusto. And that was concerning more than anything. I think at some point you can figure out where you're supposed to be, but if you're not taking on that block and, you're missing an assignment like that, then that's how touchdowns happen. That's how touchdowns happen. So, because you're not freeing up the other guys to make those plays. But yeah, Danny's been working with it. They're buddies, man. They hang around together all the time. And I mean, at some point, man, you either get it or you don't. But it sounds like he may be getting it. From everything that we're hearing out of camp is that maybe he is. Sometimes it takes a little bit of hearing it. Finally hearing it. And he's been hearing it from BV. And they're not going to stick him on the field if he's not going to get it done. So, I would say it's positive to be hearing that, because you wouldn't hear it if it was just trash, BS, because they want you to think they're going to be good. No, they don't. They've got enough guys to. That's the other thing. Kobe McKenzie was starting to look really good. Samuel Omosigo was looking really good. Lewis Carter looks like a wrecking machine out there. There's other guys that can definitely do the job if he can't. It looks like Sammy O is probably going to be doing more, maybe from the cheetah position as well. I think that position's kind of Kendall Doby's. My question is right here we're seeing, and we're hearing a lot of this too, is that Robert Spears-Jennings, which I really like Robert Spears-Jennings, along with Billy Bowman, are going to be your starters in the safety position. We were talking about the corners. What do you guys think? I keep going back to his freshman year in that spring game where you saw Peyton running step for step, getting his head around with Andrew Anthony, one of the fastest guys in the country, right? As a receiver, he ran with him perfect, got an interception, makes you kind of feel like he can probably work as, again, they like guys that can kind of play anywhere in the secondary. So do you maybe start seeing him more in those situations where maybe he's coming in as a nickel corner, or maybe he's a cover guy in certain situations? Because it seems like when on the field, he makes plays. So I want to see Peyton Bowen in the game. I don't want to see Robert Spears-Jennings out of the game. I want to find a way to get our best guys in the game. And that's just kind of where I'm at. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts about that? Yeah, take them training wheels off. Oh, I think they're off at this point. Honey bat, yeah. There you go. See? Well, and I could even see him playing some cheetah. But I tell you what, the way that Kendall Doby played it last year, what a beast. The other guy that we didn't really talk about for the corners, and I probably should have brought him up for sure, was Kani Walker, man, because he looked really good towards the end of the year as well. I think cover corner-wise, he's looking really good. Again, I think you have some good problems on your hands that you have some of these hotly contested spots, right? But it kind of gets you into that feeling of, okay, which guys are going to kind of fall by the wayside, because once it starts, the deeper it gets in those rooms, and as we know, they've got more guys coming in this class at all these positions. That means that you're probably going to see some of them leave. We saw, obviously, what's his name ended up at Ole Miss last year, right? Or this season. So it was pretty good, man. Yeah, and take a moment to reflect. Hey, man, I've been doing that. I'll tell you what, you're not wrong. You're not right. And this is the thing, the videos that we were talking about it on Friday, obviously, with what was going on with Lincoln Riley. You keep hearing all these excuses. And then, I had that video that I was still kind of editing it to get it out. But over the last couple of days, I went ahead and clipped some of that off of there to kind of tell that story. People were asking questions that, like, I figured everybody knew, but I went back watching it and, was surprised at how many people just didn't didn't really realize what was going on in some of those games. And, it's not something that they're going to advertise if you're Oklahoma either, which I get. But the truth is that it was so bad. And as good as they were, you could tell that Lincoln wasn't in it. And it all amounts to he was upset that he wasn't brought into the first of all, I wonder, for all how pissed off he was about not being part of the loop for the SEC, why would you tell your coach so that it could get leaked, right? You wouldn't. Just like they didn't tell him about the Big Ten whenever they hired him at USC either. They didn't. That probably pissed him right off too. But you can't do that because then that's how it gets leaked. That's how Oklahoma and Texas got leaked during media days, is because A&M found out about it from somebody and they squealed. Right? I mean, it is what it is. But the point is that you could have messed up the deal or something like that. And that's the thing. You're not going to do that, until you know for sure that it's going. And I don't know of a coach that would ever have that kind of power. Even a guy like Nick Saban wouldn't have had that kind of power to say no to it. Maybe Nick Saban would, but that'd be like the only guy, right? Joe Castiglione's been athletic director at Oklahoma for freaking 30 years? Almost 30 years. He doesn't need Lincoln's help, right? He doesn't need Lincoln's help on that. And the thing is, when you start looking at that, you let that get you so upset that you started tossing games, potentially, not really in it. We saw the way he was calling. It was just different. There was a lot of things that you could point to and be like, that wasn't on the up and up, right? So there's just no way. But I think, and you're seeing it now, that it's just excuse. And I think that he feels backed into a corner, which I understand. I mean, but when we're sitting here watching things that we could sit here and tell you that it wasn't necessarily Venable's fault in this game or that game or this, but how many times have you heard him throw his coaches under the bus? Never. Or players? Never. He takes it on himself. What you want these kids to do, right? He does that. Completely opposite. The difference is, and the fact is that it was an absolute blessing for him to go. It doesn't make it okay how he left, right? And karma's a bitch, man. You get out there and then they're switching it over there. And now he does. I mean, to me, if you man up in that situation, if you're Lincoln, and thankfully he didn't do this, but if you man up in that situation and you say, hey, man, I would have appreciated knowing something about this, then Josie could have had that conversation with them and been like, look, we're going to support you in this. Obviously, they've supported BV in getting ready, but gave him everything that he said that he had to have, and probably some things that he didn't even mention. They weren't going to leave you high and dry to not be able to do it. If you got the stones to go up there and test your mettle against the best coaches in the country, then they were obviously behind him on it. And the truth is that there was a lot of people that thought he was a lot better than what he was. There still is. They talk about the Big 12 championships as if, look, if you're Oklahoma in that situation, and we've talked about it before, that at that time, the Big 12 was awful. When the second best team is Matt Rule's Baylor, right? And then the longer that Lincoln was there, of course, they're not recruiting Oklahoma kids anymore. So now Oklahoma State gets better, right? K-State was going through its, having to kind of rebuild everything over there. Obviously, Kansas, it took a while, but now the last couple of years, of course, the Big 12 has been more competitive. But at the time that they won those 6 in a row, you should have, because Texas was bullshit. They weren't getting it done, no matter how well they recruited. Okie Light is, they're going to gag it up if they have a shot at it. And then the truth is that they just weren't that ready for it at that point. Hey, what's up there, Monty? Good to see you, man. Michael Deesh, good to see you too, sir. Yeah. But then, like, that's just the thing, is that there's a lot of things that were going on that it made it look like it was a lot healthier. You go to 4 playoffs, 3 of them under Riley. But to give all that, and the SC folks like Tim Prangley, and then they want to put that all on, that it was all because they weren't doing that good until he got there. What? I mean, they had a down year. They had one down year. Every once in a while, you're going to have. They went 8-5. I think that was their down year. I think SC fans would probably kill for that being their down year, right? That's why they're still kind of high on what Lincoln is. Now, to me, you got to prove more. But if you're not standing and taking some of this blame onto yourself, and realizing that you have to make changes, if you're putting all the blame off on everybody else, how are you getting better? How are you growing as a coach? And that's the problem there. So to me, good thing that he's out of there. I think it is what it is. But yes, okay. If this offensive line has any kind of heartbeat this season, a lot of experts are going to be eating crow and deleting tweets. Oh, dude, yeah, bro. I've got a freaking folder full of receipts on Twitter, and even more on my desktop here from coming off of YouTube. It's a ton of them, right? And the truth is, the offensive line is going to be fine. We're going to talk more offense on Wednesday, but right now, I would tell you that, yeah, dude, it's defensively, if they can keep it together, and the good news is that they do have so much depth. I mean, if you're running 7 deep on those 2 positions in the middle of the defensive line, you're edges at least, right? And that's, I think you're going to see some things that out of a 4-3 kind of look, where you might see Dasan McCullough kind of playing edge / outside linebacker kind of deal. He's played linebacker a lot. I still think that you're going to get a ton from him. Again, I think that Kendall Dobie's the stud. I think that Samuel Omosigo, you could see him do some things from those positions, but Taylor Wine, then you've got your transfer in. And look, if our Mason Thomas is healthy, that dude's a beast too. That dude is a stud. Now, G Baby looks like he's really the real deal. When we're talking about the interior, hey man, this idea, and Dominic Williams wasn't even on one of these all SEC teams. He was a freshman All-American 2 years ago. He was a huge reason why they played in the national championship game. He didn't even make the 3rd team in the all SEC when there was 3 other SEC programs that were really, really trying to get him, and nobody voted him as one of the top 3 guys. What a joke, man. What a joke. But again, good news for that is that it matters at the end of the year. But him and DeJoun Terry, look, man, DJ Terry's been a stud for a while now. Glad to see him come back as well. But G Baby being in there and being right behind, it looks like he's going to be right behind Dominic Williams. And then you've got, of course, Jaden Jackson's coming in there as that nose tackle, the second nose tackle. They've already got him kind of slotted there. It looks like right now Stoney's looking at number 3, but you're going to see that that's the position you have to rotate a lot. So you're going to get opportunities there to shine. The good news is that, there is that depth. There is depth that they have not had in a while. And I don't think that you see near as much max protection from these offensive lines in the SEC this year. If you don't max protect, we saw what they did against even Texas. They had 5 sacks on Texas, and Texas had one of the best offensive lines in the country, right? We know that. One thing you can't say anything. I mean, Kyle Flood has done a great job. Him and Sark did a great job of putting a line together, and they continue to recruit that position really well. I would say the same. LSU, everybody keeps talking about LSU's offensive line. It certainly was very good last year. They got most of it back. Offensive lines in the SEC are real. So it's going to be important. It's going to be important. Let's see. Yeah, the versatility. Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about, we're showing 7 deep on that interior, right? And the thing is that interior is not even really showing. It's not even really showing Nigel Smith, at least not on the R lads or whatever. It's not showing Nigel. So it's really more like 8 because I could see him kind of moving in and out. I really think he's going to probably be playing more of an edge position as well. The guy's a stud, and the way he works, I just feel like you're going to see him kind of step in. And I think that Danny Okoye is, there's so many places that he'd have started day one because of his explosion and the way he goes after the football. Just love that. And he's put on some weight and strength too that, you just have guys that are, their floor is different than what we've seen in the past, right? As great as Ethan has developed over the past couple of seasons. And I was way off on him that first year that BV was there. As much as he's developed, his floor was, way below where a lot of these guys are. And I would say that includes like Trace Ford. But to me, when you got a guy like Caden Woolard that's going to come in, there's another guy that's had a lot of experience, played a lot of football. If the light has turned on for PJ, his brother ran a 4.4 at 300 pounds in the combine last year. Insane. 300-pound guy runs a 4.4. He was at Northwestern. And always the little brothers are always better. But once he gets it, it's going to be on. Right? Yeah. And again, I think that Dasan McCullough is a natural from that position, right? From the edge side. He's not huge. He's tall, though, but the guy is a freaking attack artist. He's unbelievably good, right? Oh, man, they're going to just get it done. Screw the love. I love it. And Taylor Wine, too. No, we were talking about him earlier, Chicken. You're right. And that's why I was saying, the people that were talking about Miguel Chavis, where the hell were they coming from? He's been I thought it was stupid to be talking shit about Todd Bates the first year, but it's every year he's gotten somebody unbelievably good. Every year. So, and, he helps with the recruiting, and what a great guy too. To me, he identifies, he's working these guys very well. This is a amazing staff, man, when it comes to recruiting and development. The proof is in the pudding of what they've done before. And that's why I love it with Zach Alley here, because it's like having the whole squad back together from before. These guys all know each other. I think the only guy that wasn't a part of the defensive staff there was Valai, right? Because B. Hall was there at some point, wasn't he? Man, what a great staff. Yeah, man. Yeah, those North Kansas City high school squads. Yeah, man. And had some speedy out of Bawari kids for a while up there. Oh, dude, they're just they're just those long arms. That wingspan and just speed and just plus that dog. Got that dog in him. Wyatt Gilmore, that's who I was talking about. Wyatt Gilmore, you're talking about another stud. Huge guy, hits with, loves to hit. That all these guys, that's the one thing is you keep seeing all these guys, from the difference in this Oklahoma football team and the people that are thinking that OU's just going to come in and lay down like they, in some of those playoff games that they just got thumped in. This is not Lincoln Riley's football team anymore, folks. Not. That was that guy that was in Jay's show last night that was talking like it was still Lincoln's team. I'm like, bro, this guy's a dumbass. There's nobody on this schedule they can't beat. That doesn't mean they're going to beat everybody, but there's nobody that they don't have the ability to beat on this schedule. Nobody. So expecting them to make a run at the playoffs, whether they get in or not, is another thing. I've told you guys over and over, I believe that 2025 is their best opportunity, right, with this group. Now, I believe that Stutzman and Bowman and guys like that coming back, obviously the same with Ethan Downs and even Woody. Huge deal. Could help. And the fact that, Nick Saban retires, some things kind of shake up there. Getting Dominic Williams, there's some things that have happened that may have moved that timeline up. That's why I'm thinking 9 wins is should be where they end up. I could see them getting to 10 and definitely getting in the playoff, right? I could definitely see it happening. They're going to have to win one of those road games and take care of your business at home. Again, I think that they can beat anybody in there, but it's a matter of, health will have something to do with it, and just the way, if there's no drop off, when you in the rotation, like what they're looking for, or not much drop off, that they can still work together. I think you have an opportunity to make some noise like that. We're going to have to wait and see. But I do like them. I do like them. Little surprised the Texas overhype carried over to the SEC. Yeah, but I mean, so many people are a prisoner of the moment, Michael. They're a prisoner of the moment. The fact that they made it to the playoff finally, right? But I mean, even we've seen creators that are sitting there acting like the defensive line. I don't know what just happened. You guys still see me? Can you hear me now? Let me see something. Is it back better? Give me a 1 if everything's clear and clean again. Okay, cool. I don't know if that was because of I don't know what I did. But it's bad internet, man, out here in the middle of the sticks. Okay. I just made sure we stayed on the hard line, but that could have been anything. Yeah. Yeah. I could do this.
You know what, guys? In a nice way, fuck y'all. We don't give a shit.
I love Coach Roybal. He talks so much trash. All right. All right. Now let's see. What were we talking about? The brand.
The brand has finally returned. Fuck your brand.
And that was my new favorite right there. In a nice way. That was when y'all were messing with him about Notre Dame. Every time when Hank or anybody gets started up on him on Notre Dame, Sooner in Texas likes to do it too. He gets a little touchy, which is why y'all do it. It's funny, All right. Yeah, look, I think that again, I feel like you have some really good competition. But I think, you guys have said it as much as I have, but that iron sharpens iron. So whoever ends up kind of winning it, I guess my question is, like I said, I feel like you want Peyton Bowen in there, man. Good things always seem to be happening when he was in. When he got dinged up towards the end of the year and wasn't playing as much, plus Gentry was out as well with an injury, that hurt him in the secondary, right? Now, it probably helped out guys like Kenai Walker and obviously Makari Vickers and those guys that got a little more time in there. It certainly helped. But, it didn't really help the defense. And I think that's the reason why when you saw that it just didn't seem like the next guys were ready to step up. And of course it was the second year and those guys, a lot of those guys were freshmen and just learning it. So I think you kind of see them take a step forward, but I want to see Peyton on the field, man, blocking punts. He just seemed to always be in the right place at the right time. He's a stud. I think you're probably going to see something of Eli a little bit, his little brother, especially on those speedy slot guys that you'll probably see a lot of him. That guy's a ball hawk too. There's a lot of talent, man. There's a lot of talent. You start thinking about the guys that are coming in and, that really they didn't even have them in the springtime. But, I mean, you had, what's his name? It's Bobby Newcomb's kid. Yeah, so Newcomb coming in, obviously Eli Bowen coming in. You got those guys coming in. And I think that Boganowski, you're probably going to see Powers, Boganowski, and Jaden Hardy getting some time. And right now, right here, they're showing at free safety that Jaden, as a true freshman, is the number 2 guy behind Spears Jennings. So, I think they love, and you heard Venables talk about it. Yeah, we've got some youth that don't have a ton of experience, but I know what I'm looking at, and I like what I see out of these guys. I trust that we can play these guys and have them get that opportunity. Nothing bad comes of that. Even if you don't end up having the season that you think that you needed to have because you're playing some young guys, the fact is that gets them experience for, moving forward. Now, I do believe that having the experience, again, the Danny and Billy Bowman and Ethan Downs and those guys coming back is going to pay for itself big dividends, I think, because you can't substitute having guys like that are that good. And, having another coach on the field at both levels, really. So I'm excited about that. Dude, Bobby Newcomb was so freaking good, Neilio. Yeah. Dude, you remember how good that guy was? Shit. Those Nebraska guys were. Nebraska has some nasty ass football teams, man. Some nasty ass football teams. Unbelievable. Peyton's interceptions this year, over under 3.5. What are you taking? Yeah, I could see that. I would take the over probably with him and Billy Bowman, both of them. Bobby Newcomb, he played at Nebraska. It hadn't even really been that long. I'm starting to look. Man, he was a stud. Of course, he was an offensive guy, though. Yeah. A flat-out beast, man. Well, and I forgot that he played at that point, he was playing in the around 97 to 2000. Holy crap. Yeah, man. One of those running quarterbacks, straight, just a dog, man. Love that guy. They were so balanced, though. But, I mean, you start thinking about what those guys were at those option quarterback type of dudes. And Bobby was just a straight dog. But Jeremiah, you look at that kid, he's cut up and ready. You can tell where he came from. So He's a good, a little underrated, I think, a little bit, but he's going to be another one of those guys that's got some size on him, got some speed, and he likes to hit too. So as a corner, you're going to see him. I think you're going to see some good things out of him. I really do. Want to see Peyton with 4 blocked kicks. Hey, man, he had a knack for it, right? He had 2 of them last year, 2 blocked punts. And, I mean, he just got there easily. The dude is so fast. I'd love to see him returning some punts because he took it to the house quite a bit the last couple of years. Don't forget it. And Woody, yeah, we were talking, and I like Woody Washington a lot. I think that, and Coops talked about it a lot. I think that people are looking at what you have talent-wise, and they're like, man, he's just kind of not the same kid. But the thing is that when you think back to that LSU game that was so ugly, he was the one guy that wasn't completely outmanned by those dudes, right? Wasn't just completely overmatched. Now, it didn't really matter because the rest of them were. But again, this is what we're seeing, the differences in what you're seeing on this defense, the guys that they are bringing in right now, even the ones that were supposed to be pretty good, that, maybe they were rated pretty high, they just weren't going to be. I mean, you did have some guys that like Nick Benito, unbelievable player. They have some dudes, right? But just not as many of them, and certainly not enough to get through an SEC season. But it's like man to man to man to man. These dudes are just unbelievable. Their floor, as I said, is just so much higher. And I like Woody a lot, man. He had 2 interceptions against Texas, 3 years ago or whatever it was? The game where Caleb made the comeback, right? Andy Bass, that's a good question, T-Boomer. I think sounds like he's healing quickly. I don't know that he should be. I mean, that was such a bad injury that I don't know that I would even test it, right? He's going to be a running back. I mean, why? Well, you don't have to. You've got a couple of upper class guys, Gavin Sawchuk. Obviously, you're going to find out what happens with Javante Barnes, but I'm going to tell you one thing. I love Gavin Sawchuk. If the dude, I think the guy that gets hurt, and I think that Khalib Hicks is going to be really good too, right? That guy looks the part, and he's just, he's got some speed, got some muscle on him. I like him. I think X-Rob might look really good as well. But to me, Taylor Tatum is likely to be, he could be that freshman All-American type of guy that can change everything for you. Because if you just watch the way that he played in high school, you can, first off, he played at an unbelievable program. They played really good competition all the time. But when you watch what he did, angles disappear with this guy. He's big. He's got strength. But he can catch the ball out of the back. He could do a lot of things. And that's another thing that's going to be a big deal for him, is that dude is yes, him. That's great. Yeah. Do I think he'll push Sawchuk? I think it's going to be a 2-back rotation, no matter, at least 2 backs. But I don't think that I think that Sawchuk is hey, he proved that he was the guy at the end of last year. We saw him look really good against Florida State, and he had missed the whole season his freshman year, right? Once Eric Gray left to go get drafted, he looked really good in that bowl game against Florida State. But then he came in hurt again last year, or whatever it was. The rotation was a little weird. This is another reason I'd really like to see BV, having his hands on everything, to where, it's, hey, whoever's the best guy is the best guy. And if I can see it from over here, then we know who it is, right? And that's who you want to see in the game. Again, if you're promoting competition all the time, then that's what it has to be. That's part of the culture. So yeah, he is him, dude. Absolutely is him. All that experience, I love it. I don't think that you mess with. I think Andy Bass is going to have his time. I don't think it's this year. Why even try to hurry that, right? Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Right. Exactly. Look, and I think that's another thing. Another year with Schmitty was huge, right? It's got to be. I think that you're gonna see a team that the injuries are gonna happen, right? They're gonna happen, but they have the depth in all these. I mean, their running back room is unreal, unreal. You know, Xavier Robinson may not really get much of a chance to play this. It's not that he couldn't play. Maybe they use him in some goal line situations in a game or two here and there. I mean, you're going to probably try to use him a little bit here and there in these 3 games that you could still redshirt him maybe. Then again, the way that he put muscle on, dropped some of that weight, he came in at 240 and he's at like 221 now. That's insanity. And you want to talk about a guy that runs with bad intentions, man. That he loves contact. Bring it. Come on. Love guys like that. I like 2 back rotations too. But I'm going to tell you, but like Tatum's one of those guys that he's talked about, Taylor was talking about before when he committed, that he's good with, a little bit of slot back, H-back kind of stuff. And he's got the right size and ability to make plays that he catches the ball very well. He can even throw the ball really well. I mean, this dude he is that guy. You keep hearing Josh McCuistion, like, comparing him to some of the greats. And most notably, a guy like, well, he was talking about him as like Mixon, Joe Mixon, which, man, if he's that guy coming in, whoa. Because Joe Mixon is a bad dude, man. A bad dude. Yeah. Dude, I saw him make a throw from the goal line, and he was a 35-yard throw on the money in one of those highlight reels that he had. You think so? That means that they will definitely have dedicated themselves to the run, and made sure that they commit to the run game. I think that's with the air raid guys, you concern yourself. We've obviously seen Seth do it at times throughout his career, though. Looked like he did it quite a bit at Indiana. He certainly working with those guys that he did at North Carolina, and then he was there with Coach Sumlin, right? Whenever they were at Arizona, why he was at Arizona? He obviously was at Tech for a good time too. They all loved him. I mean, everywhere he's been, but whatever happened at North Texas, I don't know, man. But it's been a shit show for a long time there. So, but his offenses were always right up there, and he likes to run the ball. So I like it. Did they trade him? I don't know. I don't think he's left. They were talking about it though, so I could be wrong. I really hadn't kept up with the NFL that much, man, to be honest with you. But I mean, Samaje Perine is the number 2, and as studly as he was, man, he was the second guy, because that tells you a little bit about Joe Mixon. Oh, he's off with the Texans, but it says he's having a rough start. It's just one of the headlines there, but with the Texans, yep. Yeah, I think he is too, man. Everybody keeps talking about it. He's already impressing everybody just in the workouts over the summer. They're using like, whoa. So, yeah, man. Again, another great problem to have, because, and I think that they're going to give Gavin his touches because he's explosive too, right? The question is can he stay from getting nicked up to where he can't go in there and play? Because if you lose your spot, you may never get it back with this guy. Remember, they didn't really want to like overplay Adrian Peterson when they first got him. Now, I'm not calling him Adrian Peterson, by the way. I'm not doing that. But they didn't really want to play him that much. They had other really good running backs. Once he got in the game, you weren't taking that dude out. Come on. No way. What kind of year do I think Trace Ford has? I think he could have a heck of a year, man. Trace Ford is a stud. People don't. I don't know why it is that people forget about. I mean, you remember the game that when they, the last Bedlam that Lincoln was a part of, Caleb Williams knew who the hell Trace Ford was. Believe that. In his grill. Yeah. Hey, first off, I am not blasphemous when it AD is, to me, greatest Sooner I've ever seen. I don't think it's just and even when you think about what he did, I was watching a highlight reel of him just in the NFL, and you just forget how this much room gone, blow right through you. He might turn him around because he could take that hit. That guy was just unbelievable, dude. Oh my gosh, he was unbelievable. But I'm a fan. Look, sounds to me like with 12 personnel, I don't know that they're deep enough to run a lot of 12, man. And because Bauer Sharp is not going to be a blocker. Now, if you get what you need out of the guys, obviously you've got Jake Roberts, Caden Helms. If Caden Helms is healthy, maybe, right? Maybe. Devon Mitchell, we'll see kind of how right now they've got him fourth on the depth chart, it looks like. But, you talk about a stud. I don't know, though. You have four guys. Bauer Sharp is definitely not a blocker. So if you run 12 personnel with him, I don't know, man. I don't know. Now, and if you're not going to do that, then they'll definitely know what's coming. Or I don't know. You could do some certain things, but I really hope that Caden Helms gets an opportunity and stays healthy this year too, man. It's got to be terrible having the same injury 2 years in a row on both legs, But good for him. He looks the part too. What a stud athlete as well. I think he could be big. But Devon Mitchell, when the light comes on for him, and you got to remember he should be a high school senior, but what comes on for that kid? Jermaine Gresham. Who? Gibson? No. I think that Farouk is going to be your slot guy. He's going to be a slot guy. They're going to move him in and out depending on what it is, but that's a rotation. I don't think that you can say you got starters. You got a 6'4" and a 6'6" dude opposite each other. Here we are talking offense, but I don't care. Monsters that are dogs the way that they are. You just to, kind of a little preview of what we're going to talk about on Wednesday. The all SEC wide receivers, the three on that first team even. Dominic Lovett from Georgia. He's a stud. 54 receptions, though, 613, only 4 touchdowns, 11.4 yards per reception. Isaiah Bond, 48 receptions, 668, 4 touchdowns, 13.9 yards per reception. Nick Anderson, as a freshman, 38 receptions, 798, 10 touchdowns, 21 yards per reception. And then look at Jaden Gibson had 14 catches all year. He had 375, 5 touchdowns at 26.8 yards per reception. How are you guarding these guys? Not only are they big and strong and all that stuff, but they're also animals, dogs. I always think about Rodney Anderson. This kid comes by it naturally, right? I know his brothers are running. He's a stud, straight up. If Rodney hadn't gotten hurt, he'd still be in the league. Well, why? He maybe, but I don't know, man. He was injured. And those are serious injuries that, it's not his fault that he got hurt like that. Now, are you running out of room? Probably. But the thing one thing you need is depth. And if he can he's not considered the 1 or 2 guy though, even this year. So, I don't know why he would have to be that dude right now. Gibson is flat out hungry. And that's another guy that we talked about last year that we weren't really sure that he was going to pan out. because dropping too many balls and just seemed like he was in his head too much. But when the light turned on for him, and I mean, Hank kept talking about that earlier, man. Don't get him out of here. Don't get him out of here. Me and Chris were kind of like, man, he might need to go to the portal. Thank God they didn't listen to us. Sheesh. He's a dog. And right now he's pissed off because everybody keeps calling him a non-starter. You know? Well, you never know, man. Some of these guys, and here's the deal. Some of these dudes, you got to get used to that because, look, man, they're definitely, Venables tells them too, I'm trying to recruit somebody every year to take your spot. Every year. And that's as a starter. You're trying to do that. If you're down on the depth chart, you can get behind real quick. I mean, you start talking about some of the guys. Look, love Josiah Wagner. Once he got hurt and got too far behind on that depth chart, he had to get out of here. Otherwise, you're just going to get buried. And look, make no mistake, they're making room for guys that they know are going to play. And if they don't believe you're going to be able to be available, sometimes it just doesn't work certain places. That's the beauty of the portal, is that it gives them that opportunity. Yeah. Oh, dude. And then Deion Burks. Oh, yeah. But I mean, even with Deion Burks, he got on that third team offense, right? Hadn't played at Oklahoma, hadn't played at the SEC either. He had 47 receptions, 629, and 7 touchdowns, average 13.4. Do I get it with his speed and everything? And he is liable to just double that up pretty easily because if you double team any one of these guys there, somebody else is going to kill you. That's the beauty. All this concern about Jackson Arnold, when you have weapons like this, not just at the receiver position and the tight end position for that matter, but in that backfield, the line has to be serviceable. It just can't be trash. And it's not going to be trash. Not going to be trash. There's just no way. So why would you wear? It's such a dumb narrative with Jackson Arnold, man. All right. Who are we talking about? Willis McGahee kind of ran like Kyler. Willie McGee. Oh, he was a stud, huh? Emmett Jones is up there. Everybody's playing. Hey, dude, you want to talk about another recruiter? It's just one guy after another. This staff, again, be happy with the guys that you have for now because at some point they're all going to get jobs. Had a Mixon and P. Ryan until his injuries. Dude, Ronnie was a stud, bro. Stud. 32 days there, Cree Hurd. Yes, sir. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, man, look, and that's what, we kept hearing that and we were seeing video even of them kind of getting dominated early on, right? And then we saw in the game that there were some times that they did, but there was also times that they were winning those battles too. And this is what happens when you play with contact every day. Which is another thing you're starting to hear about Lincoln is that he didn't like doing that stuff. I was even hearing that from the freaking guys that love to kiss Lincoln's ass, Tim Prangley and them. The bootlicker is what he called. Somebody was calling him from SC was calling him that. I call him something else, but anyway, they were even saying that it's something him and Matt were talking about that you gotta play with competition and do some hitting and stuff. I mean, got to do it, man. Got to do it. You'll be soft otherwise. And that's the thing about his teams. They're certainly soft. And that is the difference. This Oklahoma football team looks nothing like that. Ooh. Talking about Ozzy. I love it. Yeah. Dude, some guys are just like natural at what they do, right? They almost transcend what they You know, I don't know if how many of you guys know this or remember this or whatever, but I was doing the last few years we've been kind of working on it, and we didn't really do much with it this year. And I don't know why. I'll be honest with you, but Otis Taylor, for the Hall of Fame, he's back from the merger time of the NFL. Played at Prairie View A&M. He should be considered a top 3 receiver of all time. He's like, to me, he's Calvin Johnson kind of guy. But when you look at his numbers now, obviously they didn't throw the ball as much there. And with the Chiefs, they threw it less than everybody else by like 100 times a year. Otis Taylor should be a Hall of Famer, but this is the guys that you talk about. They whenever I would talk to other Hall of Famers like Ken Houston or Mel Blount, guys like that. And Mel Blount was unbelievable, but he used to cook Mel Blount. And Mel Blount will tell you that. But you'd ask him, who did you compare him with? Who would you compare him with like now or whatever? They wouldn't. You would either hear somebody from back in the day like Jim Brown, which he wasn't a running back, or Muhammad Ali. He was there. The guys that kind of transcend whatever sport they're in because they're that good. Jerry Rice was kind of similar, right? That's what they talk about with Otis Taylor. And that's what you kind of think about some of these. I think about like Adrian Peterson played whatever the hell he wanted to, right? Anything he wanted. Bo Jackson, whoa. But awful that he freaking, he wouldn't have got hurt like that except for he was that strong. When they, grabbed him by the hips like that, he was so freaking moving that it just destroyed everything in his hips because that's how powerful he was. Pretty crazy, right? Yeah, dude. All right. Now you get a timeout there. Numbnuts. That was stupid. I'm going to come in here and say dumb stuff. Oh, dumbass. If you come in here and say stupid shit like that, you're going to get tossed every freaking time. Because, first of all, Venable's first year was cleaning up the mess that rap bastard left behind, trying to burn the damn program down, first and foremost. They lost 5 one-score games. 6-7 was coming. They went 7-5 with freaking Caleb Williams last year. A Heisman quarterback coming back, more talent, Zachary Branch. You had their running back, one of the best running backs in the country. Him and Brooks. Lattimore and Brooks were the 2 best running backs in the country. They still go 7-5. Don't tell me how great he is because he doesn't do shit without somebody else building up the program for him. Don't come in here running your mouth like that, dumbass. Golly. Yeah. Oh, yeah, dude. That's kind of, bro. And how does Lenny get in and not his best guy, right? Neilio? I mean, Otis was there are so many, anybody who grew up during that time, whether they love the Chiefs of today, obviously, and they should, right? Most people are still, those folks that grew up around that time, Otis is still their favorite player. Still their favorite player. I mean, dude, Otis Taylor, it's travesty that the guy is not in the Hall of Fame. It's way off subject, but I was just, we're talking about those guys that just transcend all kinds of sports, right? Just unbelievable guys. And that's who they are. Yeah, it's bullshit. Look, well, and I got to tell you, a lot of that shit has to do with the Chiefs, man. The deal that happened with Jack Del Rio apparently has something to do with it. That's what some of the rumor is. Then you've got dumbasses in the hall that are still voting for the hall. Guys like that jackass from Sports Illustrated. What's his name? We had it out after that first year, man, because we got him to the semifinals and he didn't move forward. And I mean, the guys that they did, listen, the thing is, the hard part about it is that most of these guys, shit, man. First off, a bunch of fat fuck sports writers that never played the game do not belong being the only guys making decisions. They need more football players deciding. When every famer I spoke to about Otis Taylor said it's whether they were Hall of Famers or not, every player I talked to were like, shit, it's the stupidest shit I've ever seen. He was better than anybody. And look, he was on the cover of that book that was even saying he was better than Bambi. And he didn't have the numbers that Bambi had. He didn't. But they didn't throw the shit out of the ball like the Chargers did either. I mean, they threw like probably 300 times less than they did. Otis was freaking unbelievable. I've never been a Chiefs fan, and he's my hero, man. Unbelievable. No, they didn't. And they really don't do it for anybody. They really just don't. I mean, they didn't really do a lot for Mark. It's kind of weird to me that they didn't do a little more for you've got some groups around there that are trying. The guys from Starcade Media, love those guys, man. They're cool. But they've worked hard, but you get no help, no love from them. And like even Vahe Gregorian and I was talking to him, had him on the show a couple times, and like he's a new voter, so I understood that he wasn't really trying to step on toes. But one of the shows he was like, well, Biletnikoff, he certainly deserves to be in. Vahe, if you tell me one more time that or insinuate that he's better than Otis Taylor, I'm going to kick you off my show. And I like Vahe Gregorian, by the way, but it's like, bro, well, you guys are not doing enough. Rick Gosselin is the guy I was talking about. Fuck that guy. We had it out pretty good. And he was trying, his thing that really got me upset was, what about Buddy? Buddy and Jim Trier, you think Otis deserves to be in over them? I said, hey, asshole, don't blame it on Otis or have me. You want me to freaking grade your big misses for the Hall of Fame, jackass? You missed on all of them. And Trier's never going to get in over the whole murder thing. Shit. Anyway, again, we got get a little off topic, but that's a sore subject for me. We worked our asses off, man. He should be in. He should have been in 40 years ago. Apparently, though, whatever it was that happened with Jack Del Rio, and Del Rio thought he was a freaking scab player. He was in his early 50s, late 40s or whatever, coming in from scouting, and Del Rio freaking at the picket line attacked him. Well, Otis sued him and the team, and I think Mr. Hunt made the rumor is that Mr. Clark Hunt said he'll never get in. I don't know. And there's other rumors that say the Cowboys did it because of the whole that they were trying to hide him and sign him to the Cowboys, and he ended up leaving and going and signing with the Chiefs instead. Pretty wild stuff. Anyway, there's some crazy stories that happened back in those terrible stories, some of them, but some of them are pretty crazy, man. Back during the merger era, and that's another one of the narratives, well, they weren't good enough, it wasn't the same. Hey, man, if they weren't good enough to play against you guys, first off, they won half of the first 10 freaking Super Bowls. So aside from the Packers, they were better, first and foremost. Number two, if they weren't on the same level as the NFL, which was just a narrative, if they weren't, you wouldn't have ever merged with them. Never. What a joke. Yeah, Jack Del Rio's a prick. He's such an asshole. Yeah, he still kind of is, from what I hear. He's still saying stupid shit. Yeah. And another great football player, but I mean, that's how Otis at 50 still looked like he could be an NFL player. But I think he was a rookie then, so I guess you can fairly understand it, but he was definitely a good player. Yeah, no doubt. But he doesn't mean he wasn't a douchebag. Attacking a 50-year-old receiver. Former the GOAT of that. I mean, look, I'll tell you what, Tyreek never caught him in his amount of time there. And Otis only, oh man, I got to talk about this on another show. In fact, I'm going to do an Otis Taylor show because they should be announcing those finalists pretty soon. So I'll do one of those. Yeah, he liked that shit, didn't he? Yeah. Yo. And time. What's up there, Jimmy Lee? All right. So what are you guys thinking about? What are you thinking about Alabama coming into it? Excited about it? Man, Chiefs look scary with Worthy connecting with Pat Mahomes. Well, they were scary already. They were already scary, but yeah, have that kind of speed. I mean, he's not Tyreek Hill, not yet, but he's a guy that can definitely, he's fast as shit. So, you give him another weapon. It's not going to hurt him anything, for sure. They're good anyway, man. They're just good anyway. I remember all that. You remember that time? You remember the times whenever they used to say Andy Reid just couldn't get it done? Jeez. Oh, in Hollywood too, dude. No shit. No. Antonio's a great, yeah, dude. AB. Top 5 offense and top 20 defense incoming. Alabama. Coach Smook and I may be doing some work together here in the next day or so. I think he may come on the Tuesday show with us. And if not, he's wanting me to come on his show too. So I like Coach Smook, man. He's a trip. But yeah, I hate the Chiefs. Especially if they don't help Otis, get in. I mean, I was always a Niner fan, so I didn't grow up. I mean, hell, I was born the year after Otis stopped playing, so I didn't really know who he was coming in. I worked on that solid for the last couple of years, right? And I mean, we even came together with like a different way of like, because it's so hard to judge players against other eras. But the problem with the voting, the way that it's done, is that first off, the game changes so much, right? And the guys that are like back from the early days of the NFL, I mean, all right, here's the deal. Get a historian, give a number of guys that you need to put in, and just make sure that you're telling. And this is all the Hall of Fame for any Hall of Fame is ever supposed to be about. And this is the same thing I would tell you about Mike Leach. I don't give a shit if he's one game behind or whatever. What Mike Leach and Hal Mumme did for the game transcends wins and losses. Doesn't mean shit. The same with Otis Taylor. The things that he did, particularly around the merger era, first off, you have to, if you look at his usage versus his, he caught most of the footballs. I could tell you a lot of those things, but the problem is if you can't tell the story of the league during that era without that guy, then he's a Hall of Famer, period. That's why Mike Leach should be a Hall of Famer, period. You cannot tell the story of this era of football. It's made the game playable. Look, Neilio, you can remember those days growing up, just like I can, that like I played on one of the very few teams that spread it out and threw the ball in high school. He was one of the innovators of that in New Mexico. Disciple of Bobby Bowden, who was one of those guys that went from like wishbone type of stuff to spreading it out too because of his athletes, right? But guys like Leach and Mumme took it to another level that you could take a team that's never going to be able to line up and run over your ass and go win football games because You know, they put you in jeopardy. Now, we haven't seen them win a national championship, but they've made the game more accessible to kids in smaller places all the time. It's changed the game of football. That's a Hall of Famer. That is the criteria that they should never forget about at any of these Hall of Fames. The Baseball Hall of Fame and all the steroid talk, shit, man. You're going to tell me that Babe Ruth partied all damn night and played daytime doubleheaders and he wasn't on nothing? Get out of here. They just didn't test back then. I watched a video a few years back about a freaking pitcher that pitched a no-hitter on acid in the 70s. Mike Schmidt talked about taking greenies. They just didn't get tested for the shit. So to throw, I mean, look, and I'll tell you as much as anybody, Barry Bonds is the biggest prick I've ever seen in my life. And I've been around him a couple of times. Asshole. But steroids didn't, he was already the best player in baseball when he started roiding. Already. The roids didn't give him the best eyes in baseball. I heard that from a guy from St. Louis that hated his guts. That was, you know, he's a big Cardinal fan, of course. He was like, but I was a fan of baseball on steroids, to be honest with you. And a lot of pitchers were doing the shit too. Football season needs to hurry up. What's up there, Sooner Cowboys? Andy Reid equals Sark? No. I'm going to tell you.
The brand has finally returned. Fuck your brand.
For who? For the Juarez Jefes? What? Oh, dude, that's hilarious. Yeah. Oh, dude, that's what I'm saying. I think seriously, there was a time that Artesia in New Mexico was the same way. Everybody we played, you know, they just ran the ball. You know, there were coaches that were very good, but they would be like, you know, the first guy that throws a puss, you know, type of deal. But I mean, these were bigger schools, but we could compete with them because we did throw the ball. Definitely, I mean, it helped our town a lot. But yeah, man, it's a different deal. It's a different deal. And the game changed because of those guys. And so that, to me, no matter what Hall of Fame we're talking about, if you can't tell the story of that era of the game without talking about that person, which I would say Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds, you know, all these guys that, you know, Mark McGwire, how do you not tell it with Sammy and Mark? They saved baseball. That chase saved baseball that year. And you still talk about them. That chase where they were going back and forth was unbelievable. I was overseas in the military and we were paying attention to that shit. And it wasn't as easy to pay attention to it back then. The internet was kind of around, but it wasn't where we were at. It was tough, right? Yeah. Sean will get over it. It sends people to his show. They love him. Everybody loves Sean. Come on. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he pissed me off last night. That dude was a chump. Look, man, and like I love guys like Jimmy Lee and most of the Bama fans from like the look, Coach Smooks people, the AAA folks, and you know, obviously Ty and all them. We get along with Bama folks. This dude was just trolling, talking shit. You know, and that's when you know somebody is not paying that much attention to anybody but whoever their program is, right? Yeah. Hey, man. Yeah, and they were all that's the other thing too. Is like I said, they were all doing it. But literally, you're going to keep that whole era of baseball players out, and it's always these sanctimonious ass freaking sports writers again, that look, man, I've known a lot of sports writers that are like this. Mike Lupica, douchebag. You know, like I said, Rick Gosselin, he used to work at the KC Star. Sports Illustrated for a long time. I used to love freaking oh damn, what was his name? Rick Riley. Can't stand that asshole anymore. You know, I'm a Poznansky guy. He's unbelievable, but he's even kind of gotten, I don't know exactly what happened with all that stuff with him, but he kind of got canceled a little bit too. But some of these dudes are just, they think so highly of themselves, right? I think of guys like Peter Gammons that never did. They didn't have an ego. Peter Gammons was unbelievable. No ego. But these guys that, you know, they get in, we're going to protect the sanctity of the Hall of Fame. Get the fuck out of here. That's not your job. It's not your job. Well, his numbers ain't good enough. Not compared to the guys that freaking... Here's the other thing about Otis Taylor, and we'll stop this. You know, the Mel Blount rule is, and it was because of Mel Blount, illegal contact. After 5 yards, you can't touch them anymore. Otis never got to play under that. And they all would tell you, man, if you didn't get your hands on him and keep them on him, he was going to kill you. And he even did with you hanging all over him. He never had that. He always played 14 game seasons. He never caught more than 57 footballs in a season either, because they just didn't throw the damn ball. He had a almost 1,300 yard season. It's unimaginable on 57 grabs. He averaged 26 yards per catch that year. Stupid. Unity Temple for Poznansky's book signing about Harry Houdini. I actually talked to him for 5 minutes. I met him at APSC judging one year. It was in San Diego, and I don't get blown away by anybody, but he was like I learned to be a much better writer because of Joe Poznansky. Unbelievable guy. I like Vahe. He's pretty good. I didn't mind Whitlock so much, but he got so political after a while, and he's a little wild now. But I mean, the dude tells the truth about stuff, and it pisses people right off. But I'll tell you one thing that I've got respect for Whitlock for the whole Briles thing, because he tells the truth about what happened with Art Briles. Nobody else wants to. Dude, Christian Okoye, oh, dude, unbelievable. Yeah, he still looks the same, right? Still looks like he could play. But yeah, the Chiefs were no help. None whatsoever. I find it sad. Yeah. Well, yeah, he will, but he'll also look, man, which one, what of it is a lie though? He'll catch you, and he'll catch you. All the stuff that he's been saying about Stephen A, not wrong. It's not wrong. And I like Stephen A, man. I know him. And he hadn't always been as crazy as he is at this point. Stephen A is a good dude, but that little narrative and the little story that it's just got embellished over time, and Whitlock called him on it. He calls people on their shit. I give him credit for that. Because not everybody's about integrity at this point. Barrett Sallee. Fuck that guy. Yeah, man, he's cool. When he went to Sports Illustrated, because he took over for Rick Riley whenever Rick Riley left Sports Illustrated. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's an asshole. There's no doubt. No doubt. Sometimes you don't have to say it, you know. It to me, it feels like with him, it's a lot of sour grape stuff, you know, that you probably wouldn't bring any of these things up and try to expose all these people if you didn't just feel like they were getting more love than you or more money or whatever it is, right? But he's had a lot of success on as well, you know. Is he Stephen A? No. Is he Joe Posnanski? No. And Posnanski was really pissed at him for a while, and they worked together for all that time. He doesn't. I know that a lot of the folks from ESPN can't stand him. Yeah. He was crazy, man. He was a crazy guy. But again, you know, when you've been around a lot of those guys, there's guys that are just, man, they're really good. I'll tell you what, Buster Olney, nobody's a better writer than that guy. Did he really? It's shit. Bodyguard, that's a dude is a freaking monster. I've been around Whitlock a few times, dude. Dude's a monster. Who's gonna come at him? Yeah, he is a little weird though. He's definitely some people want that attention. All right. Dude, Buster is he taught that actually he had like before they were doing like master classes, but there was ways, you know, at APSC we found some stuff that he basically did a course on being a beat writer, which at that time I was an editor at the time, but I was becoming a beat writer at the next job. And so it was something that I really took heart in, and I learned a lot of stuff from him and Peter Gammons and guys like that, and just how you get a lot of information and then you just kind of let it trickle out. It's particularly for a baseball writer, those guys, man, he could have stuff that he may not use the entire year. It may take a year or two before he ever uses the info he uses. But the way that he talked about how to become that guy, you learn things from him that those dudes were unreal, man. Unreal. Bodyguards, that's so crazy, bro. Thought he was Mayweather. One of these days I'll have to tell you guys a story about Floyd Mayweather. I may have to, hey, you know, I'll tell you what, we'll do that in the the members only chat. We'll have that. I'll have that one because I don't really want to let it out there. I like Floyd. Met him. I know him pretty well. One of the best stories I even know or have ever heard of about Vegas, and there's a lot of really cool Vegas stories. This is the best one I know, but we'll have to do that. Harold Reynolds, yeah, but he screwed up too. Yeah, it's talking about bodyguards and shit like that. My home theater company, a guy that worked for me in my home theater company. This is a great story. Yeah, we'll actually talk about this. I'll put. We can do it in Discord here in just a little bit. But yeah, funny stuff, man. Funny stuff. All right. Anything else we need to talk about? Guys, I hadn't really looked to see how many likes we got in here. Hey, guys, we're getting closer and closer to 3,700. We're now 30 days away. That means 32 days away. We're about 300 away from 4,000. Love it. It's 3059. So we're 341 subscribers away. Please, please, please share us with your other college football loving friends, family members, whatever. Share us on your social media, man. It's such a big deal for us and helps us get, out there and it helps the algorithm pick us up for you to do that. We've had 450 views in these. We're almost at 2 hours now. Only got 40 likes. So we're hanging around 10%. I know a lot of guys probably coming in off of Twitter. If you are watching us on Twitter right now or on Facebook as well, do me a favor, jump over to @CFB-pod. All you got to do is go to YouTube and then in the search bar, put @CFB-pod. It'll bring you to our page. Hit that like button, become a subscriber. You can watch it wherever you want. We're good with that, but it helps us so much as far as getting out there to more people. It's such a big deal for us. Okay. Please do that. Got a question. The scholarship numbers increasing now. Your thoughts? Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know yet. It depends on what ends up. Starting to hear things like, yeah, the scholarships are increasing, but the roster sizes are going to decrease. So, you know how before it was 130 people, some of them are on your active roster, some aren't. Well, you could have 85 scholarship guys, but you could have 125 or whatever the number got to or whatever at one point, but the rest were like walk-ons. Well, what this does is there won't be walk-ons so much. That could be a problem, except for nowadays, I don't think that walk-ons are ever going to be the same anyway, because they're going to get some kind of money, that preferred walk-on status, something, scholarships. I'm glad that you get more people that will get a scholarship, but watch. The active roster is going to get below 85. They've been talking about it a lot, and it concerns me because, as Venables was talking about at the coaches' meetings, we're going to have more games and less players on the roster. Doesn't make sense. So, but that's the way it's when you're paying people. It's all you're going to have to. You give a little to get a little. So I don't know, man. I think that they're going to continue kind of doing some things that you're going to have to, they're going to be a lot of bargaining back and forth. And, you're going to have to trade one thing for another a lot of times. So it kind of is what it is, right? Do they like NIL too? Yeah. What do you mean? Yeah, I mean, NIL's NIL, but the NIL's not going anywhere, by the way. That's not going to change. What they're going to do with revenue share has nothing to do with NIL. Because it's just not going to. Should the NIL be what it's supposed to be? It should be, but they have no ability to enforce that. None. Once you allow collectives and things like that, you're not going to put the toothpaste back in the tube. What I do like is that you're seeing a lot of these. Oklahoma was one of the first to do it. You're going to see Texas and Bama in them, and with these GMs and stuff. I'll dig into some of that. It's something me and Coop been wanting to kind of get into anyway. So I'll dig into some of that here over the next few days as we're kind of running through this. I wanted to do a piece on Curtis Lofton and all that stuff anyway, and what this all kind of entails. So I'm excited about doing some of that. So we'll take a look. You know what I mean? It's just going to be what it is. But yeah. Gymnastics. Hey, well, they keep saying that this is all going to help for Title IX too. I'm for anything that works with. Now, do I think that is going to work for everybody? No, not everybody has it the same. But I'll tell you guys, like I tell you all the time, none of this stuff was ever meant for it to bring parity. It never has been about parity. It never will be about parity. It's not about anybody can win a championship. That's not the model they're headed for. It'll never get there. So kind of is what it is. Guys, I appreciate everybody coming in. Hey, get in there and check out that show merchandise. I will absolutely make that shirt that you were talking about for myself. So I'll do that. And if you guys have any other design ideas, let me know what you think. I appreciate everybody coming in here. Thank you, Bishop Frank, Ben G, Stink Gus Cat, Neilio, of course. Man, Kyle Dupuis, Rob. Appreciate all you guys that have been in here. Jimmy Lee, we appreciate having you in here every time too, man. You've been a lot of fun. R Moosehead, thanks a lot for coming in. Mars Jams, T Boomer, Stephen G, of course. And where's my boy Hank been? I hadn't seen it. And I hadn't seen Rami. Oh, yeah, Rami Lemon's on vacation right now. Keaton Galactodone, Sooner Cowboys, Billy. See who else we got. Oh, Numbnuts was in here for a second, and then I booted him. Jordan Dunn. Let's see who else we got. I don't want to miss anybody. Sooner Fan 71. T Boomer, of course. Monty Cisco, Duke, Silver Sooner. Hey, good to see you, man. Good to see you in here as well, Coach. Kyle Dupuis, Chicken, Satterfield, our boy Satterfield, Mars Jams, Michael Deesh. Yeah, man. So glad to see everybody in here. You guys are awesome, man. We wouldn't do it without you for sure. It makes it fun for me to do it every day. Make sure you get over there and check it out. Hey, share us with your friends, man. I appreciate it so much. And yeah, we'll get it back in here we'll be here tomorrow night. May have Coach Smook on with us. The stash may be coming. We'll get some stuff together, me and the coach for sure. And then on Wednesday, I'll be back in here and we'll talk more about the offensive side of the ball as we get more into it. I've got some more good stuff on that, but I really wanted to open with the defense because what is important for this team and what's going to win for this Oklahoma football team is defense. We know that and I think that they've got a defense that you can win with. Eddie Black, thank you for coming in as well. Hope I didn't miss anybody. Obviously, we had Kimberly K. We had the First Lady Shelby in here as well. Thank you, Justin Q. Appreciate all you guys as always. We will see you all on the next one.